no challenge poses a greater threat to future generations than climate change. 2014 was the planet's warmest year on record. Now, one year doesn't make a trend, but this does. 14 of the 15 warmest years on record have all fallen in the first 15 years of this century. The Pentagon says that climate change poses immediate risks to our national security. We should act like it.
Well, if the Pentagon says that it must be true, President Barack Obama quoting a NASA headline saying that 2014 was the warmest year on record. But wait a minute, it turns out that NASA scientists are actually only 38% sure of that, according to their own admission. Joining me now to cut through the rhetoric is Global Warming Policy Forum Director, Dr. Benny Peiser. He joins me with more from London, UK. Welcome to the show, Dr. Peiser. What do you make about the President of the United States spending so much time in a State of the Union address hyping a claim that NASA itself says is probably not true?
Well, I think it's a sign of utter desperation that he uses a flawed set of data to claim that 2014 was the hottest year on record. Obviously, that is not the case, and the Met Office confirmed yesterday here in the UK that it's absolutely impossible, statistically speaking, to say which of the last few years were warmer. The reality is that there has been no trend. President Obama is completely mistaken, I'm afraid. There has been no warming trend since 1997. The temperatures, global temperatures, have plateaued and stalled. The temperature is flat, and there is no indication that it's going to warm anytime soon. No one knows how long this is going to last, but the longer it continues, the more the models on which all the alarm is built look foolish.
Well, how long do people just keep repeating the big lie? It's hotter than ever. It's getting hotter than ever, even in North America, as we see a monster snowstorm after the East Coast. I mean, I encounter people who say, well, 97% of scientists agree, and they can't name one who does. It's just become a big lie that's become a big truth because it's been repeated 1,000 times. And, well, the President of the United States wouldn't lie to us, and the New York Times wouldn't lie to us. How do people resist, accepting this as the truth? Well, the sun always rises in the east and sets in the west, and global warming just happens because everyone knows it, and we know it because we know it. How do you break out of that rut with the facts?
Well, because we've been told for so long and by so many that we're facing a global disaster, people are intimidated to ask awkward questions. The reality, however, is now becoming more obvious to ordinary people. People have become bored and cynical, and while they might not really speak out, it's becoming obvious in many countries around the world that they no longer accept the conventional wisdom that global disaster is around the corner. The 97% of scientists you were mentioning, all they are saying is basically CO2 is a greenhouse gas and we're pumping this in the atmosphere and this will have a warming effect. And no one really questions that. The big question really is how much of a warming effect and how much are natural factors overpowering these human contributions. These are all open questions, heavily debated in the scientific literature. And the reality is that people are, it's like a failed prophecy. When prophecies fail, then believers become more extreme and desperate.
Yeah, I think you're right. We only have about a minute left, so I want to ask you about the impact of low world oil prices on all the expensive green energy schemes, wind power, solar power, tidal power, all the things that when oil kept going up and up, people said, well, these green schemes will be affordable soon enough. What has the impact been, especially in Europe, where you are, where the spending on energy adventures was so much more than here in North America? What has low oil prices done to wind turbines in your country?
Well, all it has done so far is to make the subsidies for renewable energy even more expensive and even more painful. What the low oil price does is it relieves some of the pressure governments have been facing because of the subsidized energy, which is making energy in Europe so much more expensive than the rest of the world. But the main problem Europe is facing is a shift away from industry from Europe to go abroad where energy is cheap. And so the Europeans are facing a double problem. Energy prices for ordinary families are becoming ever more expensive despite the falling oil price because of the policies introduced by governments. And at the same time, industries are warning that they have to close down or have to move to locations where energy is much cheaper.
Dr. Peiser, what a pleasure to meet you on the show today. I enjoy your work and your website. Hopefully we'll talk with you another time. Thank you for being with us. More Source after the break. Coming up, a Palestinian rioter who attacked a Jewish family in Calgary has now been sentenced. But does the punishment fit the crime? We speak with the victims for their reaction. That's next on The Source.